It's so fascinating, man. I'm been for the last 30 minutes. I was watching this podcast about AI and other things, and it's just like doomsday scenario, basically just being played on repeat. Like,
What do you mean?
all the white collar jobs, like all this, that's all going away. Like that's all that I'm hearing right now from people who are the pundits that know what to know.
And it sounds like your reaction is that's bullshit.
It's not bullshit. I think like it's just really scary. I don't think it's bullshit. And I also just think like, I don't know that like it's all single digit years. It's going to like all of a sudden, all of us aren't going to have jobs, but I think there's already scenarios where you're seeing people who can be replaced in companies because, they don't need that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the framing of the counter argument is always whenever there's been issues like this in the past, like Industrial Revolution stuff or anything in the past, it's always ended up resulting in net increase in jobs, or at least the same number of jobs, just in different things. And an example that's always given is like the horse switching to the car. Within like 10 years, the street was like totally transformed. Everyone had cars. All the buggy drivers didn't have jobs, but they found different jobs. It's like the displacement just takes time. That's always the example given on the other side. But to me, a big difference is you never had technology that could think at or above the level of a human. It was always replacing some specific function with some other specific function. It's like if you have humanoid robots thinking at or above the capacity of humans that can do physically what humans can do and can think the way humans can think, it starts to become a question of like almost like why would you employ a human?
For white collar jobs, you don't even need the humanoid.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. Exactly. Well, in white collar jobs, you don't need the humanoid if you get to that point. So that's where the one thing that I keep thinking about too is, well, maybe we are not imaginative enough about the range of problems that we have, that it's not that it's not that robots couldn't do a lot of this when AI gets that good. It's that we will start to solve problems that we currently can't tackle because we don't have the bandwidth. And so if you take a bunch of robots to do certain things, then humans can shift to doing even more sort of that we're not able to handle right now.
But we've been like historically really bad, even in scenarios where we need it. For example, we went through in this country a complete change in how manufacturing looked, and all of those jobs shifted elsewhere. We've just I don't think we've done a great job in getting people to do other things, like retraining and getting them to figure out something new. So yeah, I think the jury's out on how we do that, but there'll have to be something like that, like a massive shift in the industry. Also has to be coupled with a shift in, how you get people to do those jobs that are going to be in demand in the future, that we don't know what it'll look like today, but yeah.
I mean, I one thing, I drive down to the Central Valley a lot, right? And I've been thinking about the electric sort of autonomous truck changes that are potentially coming. Let's call it 5-10 years. They're already being tested everywhere. So let's say you start to have autonomous truck routes. A lot of those stops are just for truckers to stop and eat and refuel, get food, everything. Like a lot of those highway stops down the 5, they're predominantly for people to stop, and a lot of them are truckers. So imagine like how much of the swath of like the economy is based on people moving around to move things, for example. And then you just like, okay, maybe that can be changed, but those communities rely on those people. So it just starts to get complicated. Like, and same thing, you think about like all the fast food restaurants. I think we're maybe like 5 to 10 years from that automating.
Like a lot of the marketing jobs are going to be gone. I feel like, because I mean, just in my short time exploring in the last year, all kinds of new things. One of the big things I've seen is that like the white collar jobs are going to go maybe even faster, because the humanoid thing is like, there's like regulatory barriers and other things like that that make it less easy to deploy. But the ChatGPT, whatever, that's easy to deploy. You don't need a lot of hardware for that.
How are you thinking about it for yourself? Like, are you trying to think about what jobs may or may not be there? Or are you just like, let's see what happens? Let's just try our best and see what happens.
I haven't thought of it from a personal standpoint, honestly. I've just been thinking more from a macro standpoint, but I think it is It is the types of jobs the type of job that I have. I think at the end of the day, like somewhat insulated a little bit, but there'll just be fewer. There'll be fewer people needed for those jobs
Hmm.
because like the vast majority of like buying software already is happening just on a credit card that you can just swipe and move on. You don't
Yeah.
need to talk to anyone. So yeah, yeah, that's how I feel about
Yeah.
it.
Sorry. I mean, maybe the last thing. I mean, I think we are probably underestimating the amount of work that will go into the transition into the new technologies. Like Jayant was saying with the PIT network and crypto, it's like, okay, like there's going to be a lot of people that need to build the widgets and the tools and the things that need to be used to make the transition. So even if we think we get like general AI intelligence tomorrow, let's say, for it to become a true like displacer of the current jobs will require a ton of other jobs to make that happen. And while
Yeah,
you're creating all those other jobs, you probably discover a bunch of other things that need to happen that maybe it doesn't look like big businesses that hire tons of people. Maybe it looks like millions of two people businesses that can like sort of leverage the AI to make really, really specific improvements in things. And the economy looks totally different, but maybe it's the same number of people being employed. They're solving like micro problems within their community with the AI, for example.
yeah. That could be it right there. And then the other thing I would sort of think about in this realm personally is, there's this thinking. I think it was like Naval Ravikant or someone who was like, yeah, like eventually, like we will have, to do all the like annoying, shitty things that we don't want to do. Like why do you have a job and get paid for it? It's because it's probably not something you would do if you didn't get paid for it, right?
Yeah.
So we'll just have more time to do those things that we actually want to do, and not necessarily and entertain each other and talk to each other and produce art and those kind of things. And make podcasts. Like I, maybe that's where it ends up going towards, right? It's like and we the biggest problem that we have is like wealth redistribution that it never has worked really well.
Yeah.
But that's something that I think eventually we'll need to figure out somehow.
Mm. Like you're saying in a situation where the robots, we're making an abundance of food because we have robots farming the land and managing the crops and everything like that. So you have an abundance of food without much human labor. And directionally, it's been going that way over time, right? Abundance of calories
No,
per
I mean
person.
I would argue differently. Like don't look at the robots. This is gonna take a little longer, right? It's gonna take a little longer to get like trucks approved that you can ride on the road.
Okay.
Today, you can use ChatGPT to write a blog. You could use ChatGPT to or Claude or any of these services, DeepSeek, whatever you want to call it, to conduct interviews. You can use it to, you know, write email campaigns. Like these are all jobs. These are all white collar jobs. Those
Mm-hmm.
are the jobs that are actually more impacted, in my opinion, in a faster turn than robotic. Like go to the field and pick the corn. Like that might take a few more years,
Yeah, but
at scale.
agreed. But let's say you displace those white collar jobs. Are you saying those white collar job people will just go be more like be able to be more almost retired currently? Or I would think that they would be displaced and go try to find something else. Like until
They have
the
to find
reason,
something else,
yeah.
I guess,
So that's why I think that
because there's no
the
redistribution of
sort
wealth
of the
happening to those
future,
people right
yeah.
now.
So the future you talked about to me is a future where it's like the reason I started with food was okay, let's say all of the fundamental staples of life are taken care of more and more by the sort of virtuous cycle of more energy leads to more robots, leads to more production, leads to more energy. And you just have that cycle going. So you have sort of like unlimited energy meets unlimited robots as robots build more energy and build more intelligence. If those things are building your food system and building your goods and building the things you need for like increasingly lower prices, there's one of two things, right? Either people are going to need more things for some reason, and I think there's probably a limit on like need for things, or to your point, like they just have to start, not have to, I guess, get to start living in a world where you just do things out of pure desire and sort of,
And how do you get paid? That's the ultimate
well,
question.
do you
But
need to get paid? like to your question, maybe the future looks like a really, really advanced like SNAP benefits for everyone, where it's like not just food, but here's all the things you get. I mean, that's sort of like I guess, like virtuous communism argument.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is. And I think that any time in history that collectivization has been experimented on, it's failed. Um,
but it's failed
so
because the incentive of the individual human to do something is gone, right? But like,
yeah,
what if that's not needed anymore in a society where the robots do everything and they're not incentivized the same way? Like, then what if that's been the breaking point? What if that doesn't need to happen anymore?
that's a multi-billion trillion dollar question,
It's kind
right?
of a
Like,
sad future though, where everyone's sitting around like, what do I do today? Like, I got
I mean,
no
I think we're seeing
purpose.
some of
Like,
it. Some of it is kind of like, I mean, maybe switching gears a little bit here, but like like Zuck said, he's not gonna hire less people. Like software engineering can be accomplished with fewer people now,
you
right?
said that,
I mean, like generally,
yeah.
that's the trend, because you see all these, essentially robo-coding products, that can, even in ChatGPT or Anthropic, you can just drop in, hey, build me a website, whatever. Like it'll give you all the code.
Yeah.
Right? That's already there. So it's only a matter of time before like you can do the same that you had 100 engineers for. You only need 10 or 20.
Hmm.
That's like, I think that future is here.
It's pretty much here. Yeah. Are we seeing that in the data on like new college software grad hiring rates? Do you know?
I don't know that, but I mean, the other thing is like, how does this get applied? And something that I think is very topical right now is, how does this get applied in government? Because I think that one thing everyone agrees on pretty much is that governments are very inefficient, and it's just there's a bunch of things that are like human driven, need to be like, paper pushing or whatever it is, that you're really not going to need. And the current administration has made it very clear that, if you're, you know, that they're going to be there's a magnifying glass on that, essentially.
Mm. And sort of,
So
I mean, right now there's sort of an indiscriminate magnifying glass on that, it seems like. But to your point, it's like if a million federal workers take this option to leave now, let's just say it's out of the 2 million workers. Who knows? Maybe half, maybe even more than half will take it. I don't actually know.
yeah, they
If
get
that,
covered till September,
but
right?
in the order they put out, there's also the option that if they don't take it, they might get fired or their position might get
Yeah,
eliminated.
yeah.
So
If they
it's
don't
kind
take it,
of
they're going to get
crazy, right?
fired.
Imagine you're in the situation where by next Thursday, I think you need to decide, like 1 week or maybe next Wednesday, you can either take it and get paid out till September, or you don't take it and you might get let go without getting paid out, right? And if you don't take it, you're going to be in 5 days a week, and you might have to relocate, right? And you're going to
So
have to be
that
working in office five
this is
days
the
a week.
same. This is the same thing that Elon did at Twitter,
Yeah.
and the CEO of Roblox did this, and there's been a lot of other companies that have followed this, which is coming out of COVID, a return to office policy, that an RTO, return to office policy, that basically if you don't return or you decide you want to be more remote, you're out. That's
Totally. I'm not actually. I'm saying the incentives are stacked to where I think you might see like 60% of people take the offer. Like
hmm,
the federal workforce might go from 2 million to like 800,000. Okay.
mission accomplished. I don't know. Like,
Well, the thing is,
for
like,
DOGE, I mean, for the whole efficiency
no,
argument.
but like, what are those 1.2 million people doing that are leaving? Like the chaos of those 1.2 million people leaving in a week with like no handoff plan is gonna be kind of, I have no idea what's gonna happen. They're just kind of guessing that the people who
Yeah,
leave are not
the scale
critical.
is the scale is unfathomable.
No, but yeah, totally. And they're just guessing the people who leave are not critical, but like that's not, the incentives are not stacked so that the non-critical people leave. The incentives are stacked such that just a lot of people will leave. And I mean, I think that there's going to be like a massive amount of governmental chaos
There is. There's no doubt. There
in
already
the
is.
6 months that follow, though. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. We're in a loan program as a company with the government. We're in a loan program and we're in an approval loop with the FDA. Okay. If our case manager at the FDA were to take the offer and leave next week, okay, I guarantee you it would be forced to restart the process with someone else. That's a 6 month delay just on whatever we're working on. Let's just say this is just an example. I have no reason to believe this is
And
going to happen.
there's probably hundreds of thousands of businesses out
There's
there that
hundreds of
are.
thousands of businesses like that, right? We're just a tiny example of that. So imagine everyone takes a 6-month delay on their approval. Either that, or without proper review, they just approve everything. One way or the other, there's probably negative consequences on either side, right?
There's no doubt in my mind that there are going to be massive consequences to this policy, and the way that it's being implemented in, just the stroke of a pen, without maybe, I don't know. My sense is they haven't thought it through, because they already issued the order to pull funding for federal programs and grants, and then rescinded that order. So they didn't think about
They
it.
didn't think about it. Yeah, immediately rescinded
They're
it.
not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
the scary part, actually, that there's no thought process really behind it. It's just ripping the Band-Aid off in a big way that it might be a Band-Aid that's like, essentially covering a massive wound that can bleed out.
yeah.
So
Yeah, I think we saw this at Twitter, right? Like eventually it's stabilized, and that's probably what they're hoping.
it has to. I mean, there will be an equilibrium point at some point, but the implications of that, macroeconomic, international, global, like implications of that, there's no way to know how it really ripples through
Yeah.
with this level of with the Twitter is a small corporation,
And it doesn't really matter that much if it goes out for 3 days. Imagine
yeah.
they're running an experiment, right? They're trying to see, can you run the federal government basically like the same way you run Twitter?
But
And,
I also don't know the answer to what is the alternative to that.
well, I think, if you want to do a reduction, like, and look, the budget's out of control. I think people agree with that. You need to make reductions. I think you try to do it in a way where you're like, okay, in 6 months, you have a 6-month transitional handoff period. You like create goals within each department to make 30% reductions over the next year, right? You give each department head a budgetary goal to make a 30% cut in the next year and a 50% cut over the next 2 years. And you tell them, look, it's at your discretion. I don't want things to drop that are critical. I need a plan in the next 3 months for those reductions. And then I need you to make those reductions, maybe through an offer like this, but I need you to make them, over the next 9 months. And then what you do is you let each department sort of talk to their people, talk to their managers, who's critical, who's not, determine which managers are critical, let them lay the people off. Then you let them be responsible for the recovery of the departments, like from the work that was let go. And you have a sort of managed transition handoff.
I mean, that would be a regular way to do like a riff.
That's what I'm not articulating anything like mind blowing, right?
I know.
I'm just saying
I know.
their rush to do something has made put the goal ahead of like the method, which I think is just going to cause like ridiculous chaos.
Yeah.
In fact, it may not even be legal, Vivs. This is the crazy thing. So they issued this order. The federal
it's not
government
legal. The federal judge stopped it, right?
No, but not the freeze. I'm saying the like pay people to leave order.
Yeah.
Like they're apparently in federal law, there's not really an ability to give this much sort of severance pay. Okay, it's not like it's sort of a power of the purse thing to how much you can give people.
So Congress would have to approve it.
Yeah, but the other crazy thing is they've only given people a week. So if they say they want to resign, but then a judge overturns it in like 2 weeks, right? Then they don't have enough time to all these people have written resign into Musk and Trump. Now imagine you got an email from someone who was like, I wanted to resign. Then the judge is like, no, you can't let them resign. They're just going to fire them. So it's like super risky on the people side too to say you want to resign if you're not actually going to get the severance. I don't know. It's just chaos, man. It's maybe intentional chaos. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the ultimate thing that we've yet to see, but I think we can all kind of predict, is that in real positions that come open, I mean, Trump is just going to want to install loyalists who will just do his bidding, right? I mean, that's obvious with the cabinet positions, but it's not so obvious what happens when these inspectors general, who are supposed to be people who are unbiased, who he's now fired a few of them, or 20 of them or something. Is he just going to how do I haven't researched how those positions get filled ultimately, but you'd have to imagine they do everything possible to get loyalists who then will just like go along with that. And so like if you keep pulling the string, there's a very authoritarian argument to be made here, which we all kind of saw coming already. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, is the Constitution going to hold up really to that? Is
Yeah.
the question?
Yeah. I mean, I guess they would argue, or Trump would argue, that they're not loyalists. They're just people who won't undermine me. Like, and that's probably his argument is there's a group of people in the government that if they were allowed to stay in there would just keep undermining what I'm trying to do, and I need to make big changes. I think that's his reason for saying he's going to put people in that he trusts. And then I think he would argue these inspector generals are just wasting time and causing
And I
roadblocks to
heard that
things. And
some of them are also people he had originally appointed in his first term. So maybe
yeah,
there's something there where
I don't
it's
know. Yeah, he
not
clearly
completely
doesn't want
immoral.
much oversight, but I think he just wants to run it like he'd run a company. Like,
Yeah,
okay, this guy, he's going to execute my vision over here. This other person's going to execute my vision on marketing or whatever. Like, and then it's like if they're not aligned with it, okay, you can go somewhere else. Like, it's not critical to me that you're not here. Like, I'll find someone else who can do the job. The way he'd run a company, but that's not exactly. I mean, it's like a consensus government, right? So
yeah.
it's a big test of can you run a country like that? And I think you're right. It's like the question is, do the checks hold up, or is it just
Yeah, I mean, the Constitution's held up for a few hundred years, so um, you know, this is a true test of that. I
mm-hmm.
think it's going to be a true test of that. Um, I still hope that I hope that they're successful. Honestly, like
Yeah.
in some of these things, right? Like there is a huge need for government efficiency. Um, you know, the rip the band-aid off approach. We'll see if that's the way, but it is a way to kind of achieve the ends. And also just been watching a lot of the macroeconomists of our day talk about the deficit, as well as how much debt we have taken on, and it's in a downward spiral that unless we take drastic measures like this, potentially like this, you know, there's no it's not going to be handled in terms of just letting the government run how we always have, you know, is not going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, but I still think you can agree with the goal, which I agree with everything you just said. We have to do something about the debt and we have to do something about the efficiency of the government. But I just think you can agree with the goal and disagree with the method.
I agree. I agree. The method is seemingly very knee jerk and not thought out, and it doesn't seem to have any plan. At least if there was a plan and you had thought about the repercussions and how to handle them, that's one thing. This seems like I'm here, mandate, wave of a wand. Don't know what's going to happen after that, but hasn't been thought out very much.
Yeah, it's the same thing with immigration, man. Like it's like, okay, you have a goal, especially for immigrants who are here illegally and committed a crime. You have a goal to deport them, but the way that you're messaging everything makes everyone fearful. Even at our daycare, there's been notices put out about ICE raids and what people should do in case. And it's like, dude, these are people in the community, haven't done anything. Like they're critical parts of the community, and like they're fearful to go to work now. Same thing is happening in the Central Valley. People aren't showing up to
Agriculture.
jobs. So like,
And there's if you don't think
gotta
it through, there's subsequent effects, right? Like the price of food, and not being able to meet demands for supply of vegetables or whatever. You know, these farmhands who are immigrants who are fearful and staying home. Um, there are massive ripple effects to that if they're staying home in large numbers,
yeah.
which sounds like they are.
So you gotta again goal versus method, right? He's terrible at the method. Like you gotta message it properly and say what you're gonna do and give people the right expectations, and then you can manage it. But let's see what happens, man. It's to your point also. It's like I do want some of the goals, especially some of the financial goals. Would be great to see the debt start to come under control,
And
but
there's no
it's
question that the immigration policy needs work, right?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
it needs
question.
more
I think
consistency and updating.
everyone agrees on that baseline. But the actual method, like you said, needs to have some intelligence behind it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, should we cut this one?
Yeah,
All right.
I think we had a good convo, and we're actually really quick before we jump. I want to just say really quick that we've had some really awesome conversations over the last few days. Just as an example, we talked to our friend, the Madhulika Pod, the actress from LA. That's out. Go check it out. We talked to our friend Karthik, who's a founder of a company, could be impacted by some of the things that are coming out of this new administration.
Karthik Chandran, that is, because
Karthik
we've
Chandran,
talking,
yes. Thanks for that. We have I had another Karthik on before, and then we had Jayanth, who is CTO of a pretty important crypto company,
Duro Labs.
Duro Labs, and he was telling us about his experience, and also that industry, that community, is impacted by the next administration. And then we have a few really cool calls coming up with people who are in the deep learning space, in machine learning, who can kind of help us grok and understand what's going on with this whole DeepSeek product that's come out of China. And then we also have someone who is kind of steeped in the legal aspects of a lot of these technology type situations that are going on, who may be able to help us demystify and weigh in on what's going on with TikTok, what's going on with the Chinese model companies that are out there. So in any case, looking forward to all of those, and we've been super pleasantly surprised with the reception. Everyone, please like and subscribe and all that stuff.
Subscribe. That's what we gotta say, right?
We gotta say that, and we've had a lot of really positive feedback already. So this is so exciting, and excited to keep doing this with you, Arvind.
Yeah, likewise, man. All right, talk to you later.